What if we lived forever? What would you do with all of that time? Would anything excite you anymore? What if, say, Slazachov uploaded?
I was hoping to make a big impact, but this is a little much. Today we're talking about a very special piece of hypertext fiction, one that I think stands out from the rest and deserves its own video. If you're interested in more, make sure to check out the first video in this series. It covers hyperfic more broadly, naming Homestuck, creepypastas, and the SCP Foundation as examples of the genre. I plan on covering more hypertext works in the future, so if you want to be notified of when that happens, make sure to subscribe to keep in touch. Now, 17,776 is a hyperfic written by Jon Bois with the help of Graham McAree, Elena Bergeron, Spencer Hall, and Tyson Whiting. Those other four aren't credited nearly as often as Bois, but he's mentioned in a Q&A forum how, if not for their technical and editorial aid, the fic just wouldn't exist as it does now. But what exactly is 17,776? I hear you cry. I can hear you. Simply put, it's what football looks like in the future, which is the subtitle for the piece as well. Bois wrote the story to entertain a more light-hearted tale, one that stands out from the drab, dramatic, and distressing media we've all come to love and know for their enrapturing storytelling. In an open interview I'll be referencing throughout, Bois stated that after the 2016 presidential election, he felt like attending the worlds of Breaking Bad and Game of Thrones became a miserable company to have, and wanted to build a world separate from where we are in the present. The misery portrayed in those shows were a poor form of escapism, and in Bois's words were dread porn, which I love as a description because it gets to the heart of the problem with those shows. They get so gut-wrenching that it becomes an act of emotional masochism, trying to continue on with certain scenes. Recognizing that there was a desire for a more light-hearted approach, Bois invented a future where not only does nobody ever die, but all we do is play football. American football, that is. None of that British crap. So 17,776 can partially be defined by that which it is not. It is not a serialized drama about real people in dire situations, nor is it about how power corrupts a good person. It is not about the end of good times, nor is it about a glorified struggle against a horde of enemies. It's not about drugs, crime, violence, or even sex. 17,776 is about stories themselves, and uses America's favorite pastime as merely the bedrock for these stories. The fic is broken up into 25 chapters, each of them focusing in on a location either somewhere in America, like Denver, Chicago, or Denali, Alaska, or deep into outer space. The reason for this is that the fic sets up our main characters as three sentient satellites, Pioneer 9, Pioneer 10, and Juice. After these distant semblances of humanity spend 15,000 years alone with nothing but their onboard systems to keep them company, they eventually develop a kind of personality. This is mostly hand-waved by the author as being a setup for having a distant observer and someone for the overall piece to follow as questions arise. We find the last satellite to wake up, Pioneer 9, as he's introduced to the world he left behind and what it's been up to since he was constructed in the 1960s. From there, Pioneer 10 and Juice share with him through colorful dialogue that all they do is watch football. It turns out the future got stuck in the present sometime in the past. No, I can phrase it better than that. Hold on. It turns out sometime in 2026, people stopped dying, aging, and being born. The population of the world held still forever, and realizing this, humanity solved all of its problems because the big one got knocked out for them. There's no explanation for this, and frankly, I don't care for one anyhow, because it's not about a day where no one dies. The story is about what you do with all the time in the world. Bois says something interesting here, as he depicts a timeless, deathless universe as an unproductive one, unassuming, and unbothered by tomorrow. What one does with all of time is to simply pass it by with recreation. And football, as the prototypical game, gets reinvented 1,000 different ways. This is the meat of the entire fic, 3 satellites stuck in outer space with nothing to do but watch their pick of human competitions. There's one version of football that takes place across the whole state of Nebraska, where at one point the woman in possession of the ball hightails it into an EF5 tornado just to get the defensive line off her back. There's another version of football that was once planned to be much larger in scale, from Canada to Mexico, but through some kind of mistake or act of sabotage, resulted in 22 players duking it out at the bottom of a canyon in Arizona forever. There's yet another version of football that, due to a desire to get the perfect referee call, has resulted in a rulebook so massive and comprehensive that they accidentally wrote a series of rules that says players can stake territory on the field. So after 15,000 years of land disputes, there's a Bojangles in center field of the Broncos' home turf. This is only a portion of the variant football games being played in an immortalized America, and the fic really hones in on the human element of these scenes. This video was originally much longer, and it was basically a read-through of the first chapter with notable bits summarized, but I don't think it did the piece justice because so much of it is just a pairing of GIFs, lifelike dialogue, and the occasional video embedded at the bottom of a page. Just showing you everything that happens, beat by beat, I think is a poor cover of the real track. I would highly recommend this fic for everything that I've said about it in this video, as well as the many details I think are just better left for discovery. There's no great twist in the story that'll make everything fall into place. It's really just a quaint look at the state of things now through a hyperbolized version of reality. And through this lens, thanks to the help of Google Earth and some slick HTML, Jon Bois and company were able to craft a beautifully human story that, to this day, makes me bawl whenever I see this image. Yes, this one. You'll just have to read to find out why, so until next time, take care of yourselves and be good to each other. Bye.